Drafted in 1998, Air Canada, Vince Carter has a 95% Hall of Fame probability. But me and Deshaun today are going to discuss whether or not we feel like Vince Carter is a basketball Hall of Famer. Deshaun, you feel very strongly about this topic, so I'm gonna let you start. What do you think?
I'm gonna start by saying anyone who wants to get on me for my take, I appreciate what Vince Carter did. Minus regarding requesting a trade and kind of leaving us for dry, but I appreciate what Vince did. He really put Canada on the map.
I would do the same thing about Vince Carter.
Yeah, I mean, you're not being built around properly. Mm-hmm. Anyways, when it comes down to it, I just don't think Vince Carter is an all-star. I think, a Hall of Famer. Vince Carter, though he has the longest ever NBA career, his accolades to me just don't add up to someone who is a Hall of Fame worthy player. He has never been in an NBA Finals. He's basically since like year 9 of his career, he's been a bench player. He is an 8-time All-Star, but he's played 22 years, mind you. So,
well, I'm not going to fault him for playing a long time in comparison to his All-Star appearances, because like a normal player would have retired at 37. Like Vince Carter averaged 12 points when he was 37, and then never averaged 10 again. So I don't want to look at the later years because he's just balling because he can still play. I'm not going to hold that part against him. What I can kind of discuss is that 8 All-Star appearances is pretty good. Like that's not bad, but never played in an NBA final. That is part of the discussion. Yes, because he never got his team very deep in any playoff runs. Also, he has 2 All-NBA appearances, but it was one time he was on the All-NBA second team, one time he was All-NBA third team, which was in 2000. Second team was in 2001.
Yeah, so that's really early in his career. Like, there are guys who make those All-NBA teams. I don't think that they're...
Those are his second and third years in the NBA.
Exactly, but I don't think that they should automatically be a Hall of Famer. Like, I don't... Like, I think that he doesn't have the resume or the winning or the championships that... Like, right, he has no MVPs. Like, he's no defensive... Like, there's just not enough. He has no accolades... And then he also has no on-the-court winning. Like, yeah, he's played a long time, and he was a very good player. He was obviously an all-star earlier in his career, but the majority of his career, he was not. Okay, so 40% of his career, he was an all-star, and he was a very good player, putting up close to 20 points per game. But now...
Well, I'm not gonna fault him for not playing well at 40 years old.
I'm not saying fault him for... Like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, like, Vince Carter right now should be an all-star. Obviously, no. But Vince Carter is not a Hall of Famer. I mean, they look at, I think he's at 20,000 career points or something like that. If you really look at that, like, Vince Carter is, like, very close to the most amount of minutes ever played in the NBA.
He has almost 26,000 career points.
Okay, so it's, okay. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, he just played, he's played his fair share, like, of NBA minutes. Like, it's very hard to... be like, oh, like his points are the reason he should get in. Like, I think, like, in Canada, like, the impact that he had, I think that's huge. I think that would be a huge telling to him, and obviously, he's a lot of respect because he's been in the league for this long. He's been able to, you know, make it this far, and prolong his NBA career, where a lot of guys are unable to do that. But Vince Carter just hasn't done anything ever in his career, really. If you look at it.
He's 19th all-time on the highest scores in NBA history. He could end up passing Kevin Garnett, who is roughly 400 points in front of him. He could pass him. He probably won't if this is his last season in the NBA. If he plays another season, he'll probably catch him. But I don't think Vince will go one more year after this. But regardless, you know, he had a lot of great seasons. There was a big stretch of time where he was putting up upwards of 20 points per game. Like, mostly he was putting up at least 24 points per game for about a 9-year stretch when he was on Toronto, and then when he moved to New Jersey. And then he started fading off as soon as he left the Nets. and he went to Orlando, Dallas, Memphis, Sacramento, Atlanta. He's been all over the place since then. He's been a bit of a nomad since he left the New Jersey Nets. But that New Jersey Nets team, fitted with guys like Jason Kidd, I think they got to 2 NBA Finals in a row and lost both of them. They did. 2002 and 2003, they were in the NBA Finals and lost both of those series. One of them they got swept by the Los Angeles Lakers. The other one they lost to San Antonio Spurs. Adding a piece like Vince Carter was supposed to kind of put them over the line, and it never surmounted. That Nets team is one of the best teams to not have won an NBA championship. And Vince Carter is a part of that, and I don't know. Obviously, it's not team-oriented to get into the Hall of Fame, but there are certain accolades that you need. Like, Kyle Lowry's Hall of Fame probability is like 85, but Kyle Lowry without that championship is like, what's his Hall of Fame probability? Like 20% maybe? Yeah. So, I think there's a case. I can understand the case you're making. I think that for Vince Carter, he's done so much for the game of basketball. Like, the dunk contest probably is what it is because of Vince Carter. They had shut it down like the years prior to that. I think Kobe won it in 97. I think they shut it down. What was it, the 2000 dunk contest?
Yeah.
I think they shut it down for a year and then they brought it back, and then Vince Carter just, made people care about the dunk contest again because it was going into a bit of obscurity. The one that Kobe Bryant won was probably the worst dunk contest we've ever seen. And also, he put Toronto on the map, so it's easy for Torontonians to kind of talk about it. Like, if you've seen like the documentary on it, it's a great watch on Netflix.
That is a good watch.
Guys like Kevin Durant wanted to be Toronto Raptors players because of Vince Carter. Vince Carter made Toronto what it is. He kind of laid the foundation to help grow the market of basketball in Toronto. And yeah, he left, and pretty disgraced for Toronto fans, because Toronto fans have, at the time, like even I remember, and I wasn't even that old, just the backlash he got from that. But if I was Vince Carter, this team's not building, we're not getting better, I'm going to a contender. And that they didn't, and it ended up not working out at the Nets as a team. Personally, he played very well, but
the thing with Vince Carter, though, is he's been on good teams, man. He was on the grit and grind Memphis Grizzlies that literally when he left made to the conference finals. He was on Orlando the year after they made it to the finals and lost to the Lakers. Like, he's been on very, very good teams, and then when he gets to those teams don't do as well as they don't reach their their full capabilities. So when we talk about Hall of Fame players, like, your Hall of Fame players should elevate your level of play. They bring you from what you are to a better caliber of team. So, for example, Kyle Lowry, he elevates the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, and he did as soon as he got traded there in the Rudy Gay deal.
Right? He straight up makes us better, and he brings us from whatever level we were at to now next level. He elevates his game. Mm-hmm. Vince Carter has been on already very, very good teams, just a couple of games away from championships, and they get worse or they regress, or once he leaves, they get better. So, I don't know, like, for me, that's not a Hall of Fame player. Like, that's just a very good player, and because he's prolonged, he's played in the right place, like, it's something where now we're like, oh, this guy should be a Hall of Famer because he has, the respect. But, like, I don't know. Like, I think if he had played anywhere else but Toronto, I don't think we talk about Vince Carter as a Hall of Famer.
I agree with that, I think. I think people maybe still talk about him as a Hall of Famer, but a lot of his career accomplishments were because Toronto was really bad and he made them better. So in that scenario, I think he helped elevate the Raptors, but when it got to the highest level, that's when he, I guess, faltered a little bit. So, like, the Raptors never got to a conference final, even when they had McGrady and they had Vince Carter, and they were supposed to be, a team that could be a threat, but they never quite were. That's what I can kind of hold on Vince Carter. But, I mean, playoff performances, Vince Carter's a guy who elevated his game in playoffs. Like, I'm looking at his playoff stats.
Yeah, he didn't disappear. I agree with
this
that.
guy got better in crunch playoff moments. So I don't know, what can you pin it on? Because, like you said, the teams he played on never reached the next level because of him being there. What do you think it was about his presence that caused teams not to be able to elevate? Was it just the New Jersey Nets were not built to succeed? Were they not built properly? Was it the Toronto Raptors didn't have enough help for him and T-Mac? What do you think it was?
I think the Raptors were not ready. Like the previous management we had before Masai blessed our team, they were never ready. Like they've had very good players, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Chris Bosh, and did absolutely nothing.
Chris Bosh and Vince Carter played together too for a few years.
And did absolutely nothing with them. I mean, T-Mac became arguably one of like the greatest like pure scoring players in league history once he left the Raptors, right? That was also on T-Mac because he didn't want to play in Vince's shadow, even though Vince was his cousin, which is crazy.
But also T-Mac was like a bench player on the Raptors. Yeah. And if I'm as good as T-Mac, I'm not sitting on the bench.
Well, they were the same. I think him and Vince were the same position anyway. So like it wasn't gonna happen for them. But like I just think the Raptors' inability to really get a proper team around them, that's what kind of swayed them that way. But the Nets have no excuse for why they shouldn't have got to an NBA Finals with that. I mean, the Detroit Pistons, yes, they were very good, but I just think that the Nets, if you add a superstar / Hall of Famer that Vince Carter's supposed to be, you get back there. You're way better than obviously what you were the year before. So I don't know, like that's really interesting to me. Like and with Orlando, like I felt like Orlando should have got back to the finals. Like I don't know how you go to the finals and then you add Vince Carter, and Vince Carter literally put up I think like 14 points that year in his year in Orlando, and he didn't make them any better. And like I don't know, like his regression was just huge from the early part of his career to later.
Mm-hmm. And that like New Jersey Nets team we're talking about had Hall of Fame Jason Kidd, Vince Carter, Richard Jefferson, who was very good at the time, putting up 20-ish points per game. There was pieces on that New Jersey Nets team to succeed. I don't know. Can you pin it on Vince Carter for why they didn't succeed?
I'm not pinning it on him, but I'm just saying, if you're a Hall of Fame player, like there's very few Hall of Fame players that you can talk about that are unable to elevate their team. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a Hall of Fame player and you're putting in a team that's already good, you look at that team and they should be a championship caliber team. Do you understand?
Yeah. So no, it's a good point. I kind of started this. Well, before you kind of talked to me about this, because we've been talking about this for like a few months. I started out as like, yeah, Vince is a Hall of Famer. Then the more I kind of hear about it, the more I'm kind of swayed towards, okay, well, hold up. Maybe he isn't quite that. Maybe he's not quite a Hall of Famer. And the more I'm hearing from it in this way, the way you're kind of explaining it, you're right. He played on a lot of great teams like the New Jersey Nets. And the Toronto Raptors had some great ability, but never quite elevated that team to where it needed to be. And the kind of guys who get in the Hall of Fame, they have personal accolades to go on with themselves. I think Vince Carter has a gold medal at the Olympics, but that's really the only team-oriented award he's ever gotten. He's been a Rookie of the Year. He's never been on an All-NBA first team. No NBA defensive teams. None of that. He was an All-Rookie and an 8-time All-Star. I just think he was a really good player. The way I'm kind of seeing it, he was a really good player, but is he a Hall of Famer? I think you're kind of on something when you say that if he didn't play in Toronto, he wouldn't be a Hall of Famer. Because I think the case you have to make for him is how he changed the narrative of Toronto basketball, like how pivotal he was in growing the sport in Canada, not only Toronto. that's what you can argue for Hall of Fame, but you can't really argue his play as getting him into the Hall of Fame. And I think that's the way, unfortunately, we have to look at it. Obviously, I love Vince Carter. Like I'm not trying
I have his jersey. I'm not trying to trash him.
Yeah, I'm not trying to like disrespect. I'm just trying to speak facts. Like, you know, I'm not biased on the show. This is just factually speaking. His teams never got better because of him. Really, they never got to the elite level because of him. He never got an All-NBA first team. No personal accolades other than one second team and one third team plus a Rookie of the Year. But I mean, guys like Malcolm Brogdon, who is a good player, but he has a Rookie of the Year. You know, Rookie of the Year isn't
it's not a huge
award, right? So if you want to make the case for Carter, it has to be through what he did to change the landscape of Canadian basketball. And obviously he did a lot there. He's a Toronto legend. I love Vince Carter, but in the case of basketball's elite, you know, we've done a few episodes on who should be in the Hall of Fame for NBA. Marc Gasol, Kyle Lowry, who I said are both Hall of Famers. I don't think I can really say the same for Vince Carter. What do you?
I agree.
Round it off with something?
I fully agree. Once again, all love to Vince. I literally have his jersey I wear all the time. I thank him for what he did for Toronto Raptors basketball early when I was watching it, but he's just not a Hall of Fame player. I think he's a very good player, and I think because he was Toronto and he was us.
Yeah.
Okay. He was Air Canada. We just love him a lot, so we're kind of blinded. But a lot of people don't look at Vince Carter as this guy should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, a lot of people do. There's 95% probability.
That's crazy to me. Like that's.
I thought that was high.
Yeah,
I thought that was high.
Really, really high. But I mean, that's all I really gotta say is I think he'll get in. I just personally
think he'll get in.
I just don't think that his
career. And I won't be upset about it. I won't be upset about it. Right? I'll be like, okay, like I understand why they did that, but this is just my opinion on it, right?
Yeah, I just don't think his resume adds up to.
I agree.
A Hall of Fame resume. But
yeah, we'll end it there. I think there's gonna be a lot of people who disagree with us, so if you want to leave some angry, hurtful words, you can do so on Twitter or Instagram at AmateurPDC, or comment on the YouTube video. Me and Deshaun relish the opportunity to get made fun of online. I mean, I'll drop Deshaun's if you want to go straight for his throat on this matter. But in the meantime, you can subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to stay up to date with the daily content from the Amateur Sports Podcast. We post every single day, so we will see you tomorrow for another episode.